the future. So thanks for that.
Definitely.
And I see Sean King's on the call. Sean, you there?
I am indeed. How
All
are
right.
you?
Good, good. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see your face. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I see Sean King's on the call. Sean, you there? The top of your head's okay. There it is. I see it now. The top of your. All right, great. Sorry, production value.
No worries. I've been thinking getting a better one than this one, I guess. Although I could just there. That's better. That's a better illumination of my face. So.
You have a mystical glow.
That's right.
Good.
It's true.
It's a good look.
Even in the dark.
Nice. So I think we're just going to give 1 or 2 more minutes for a couple of people to jump on and we'll start up. So again, thanks everyone for being here.
Hey, can you? I'm just starting my live stream. It's going to start in like a minute.
Can you send me the promoter's number?
I don't have his number, just his Facebook, but I'll send you his name on Facebook. Yeah. Mm.
Okay. Typically I would be in my studio, but I'm kind of on the move today. So not the most glamorous set here, but you know.
Mobile studio.
Absolutely.
Mobile studio. I have a time limit today too. I'll have to quit at 1:45 if we're still running. So just to let people know in advance.
Great. Thank you. And I wanted to see Ali, you're there. We can hear you. You can hear us okay? I see your mic is off. So typically what we do is we're going to spend the first time introducing Bloom and talking a lot about his work and what he does. He does many different things. So that'll take a little time. And then we can kind of open it up for questions and then we'll open it up into a round table. And it's been nice. Our last few calls, we've kind of ended with some very practical action items. I know Bloom is up in, I think you're in Boulder right now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Great. And we're working on getting you down to Crestone, as we talked about, and we can talk offline about that. But I love doing these calls because there's so much, excuse the pun, fluidity in this water work and so many things happening. It's nice if we, find a tangible, doable action item at the end. So. And I will say this before we start. Elizabeth, you're there?
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. Should we give it another minute or should we just start?
I would say we start.
Okay. And Bloom, before we do the official, because we're going to do a little re-edit on this too. If you could just put in the chat, I know we did a little blurb on introducing you and stuff, but if there's anything else you wanted us to do in the introduction, if you just put it in the chat, then we can go from there. If not, that's fine too. I also saw that Angelique's starting her water animation series today, so I don't think she'll be on the call with us today.
Yeah, it's actually with a series with Zach Weiss for water stories. And it just so happened that the moment you said Angelique's name, she got on the call asking a question.
Oh.
How's that? Because I have it in my ear right now. I'm listening to that as we.
The letter of synchronicity is getting really wild. I think the quantum field.
It is very wild.
The quantum field is working.
But that's specific on how to restore landscapes and keep the water on the land, on the property, on a permaculture standpoint. So.
Right. Okay, so I think we're ready to start. And what I'll do is we'll dig down a little bit deeper, but I think I'll just do a general introduction. And we're going to just go by your name, Bloom, not Robin, correct?
Yeah, Bloom's good.
Okay. All right, I think we're ready to start here. And again, we usually edit out these kind of first few minutes and make it available. And Elizabeth.
Oh, you're on mute, Michael.
Elizabeth's going to monitor our camera view too, just to kind of keep production value up. Thank you. And we're ready. So, okay. So we want to welcome everyone to Voices of Water. It's a great day here in Nevada County. Also, we rebranded as Nirvana County because it's such a beautiful place to live. Such a high vibrational community with lots of music, dance, art, and culture. And of course, we get to enjoy the beautiful outdoors here. So welcome to our weekly Water Wednesday broadcast. I'm, today, one of many hosts that helped to initiate this show, Michael DiMartino, and I'm really looking forward to this next interview and discussion today with Bloom. And I'm also really honored that we have on the call, and she's really been holding it down, keeping things going with Voices of Water and helping to create graphics for the website. And also, again, an instrumental cornerstone for this year, our second World Water Day on March 22nd, which is a Tuesday. I want to welcome Elizabeth Harold from the World Watershed Wisdom Council Project. So welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I mean, just talking about the synchronicities, the current that's moving in the world right now is pretty phenomenal. And for me, the Watershed Wisdom Council concept is a change of perspective on our planet. That if we could align with water, which is the force of life itself, then water would take care of everything, right? That's what water does. So we just have to really align ourselves and get out of our way and rethink our behavior. But I'm very happy to be here with Bloom. I've been hearing your name for many years and happy to hear your music and hear your visions and your thoughts. So thank you.
Great. So that's a nice segue. So again, with that, again, I want to welcome Sean King, who's someone we've been collaborating with recently, who I met in Crestone. And people will come in and out of the call as we go on, but we want to now feature our keynote speaker. He's a music producer. He was originally from California. He's now in Colorado. So we're neighbors in many communities. I know he travels really all over the world. And last year for World Water Day, I think we had a video of him performing in Costa Rica. But we're really happy. I believe he's calling in from Boulder, Colorado. Where one of our other co-hostesses of Voices of Water, Angelique, is also based. But we want to welcome to the show Bloom. So welcome to Voices of Water and our Water Wednesday.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks everyone for being here. Yeah, I'm really happy to be talking about water today. And also for those of you who haven't met me yet, I do a lot of permaculture design work as well as event organizing, and I do both singer-songwriter music and electronic music and DJing. So I like to narrow it down to music, permaculture, and event organizing when I explain what I do. But water is a big part of everything involved in that because, of course, water is life. And also water is the core of permaculture design. Water, the energy of water comes into music, especially I DJ a lot of ecstatic dances. So it's almost like taking people on this journey through these different waves, riding a current of starting really slow and ambient, building up the energy, doing a big wave, and then back down and back up, and then bringing it back down. And I also grew up by the ocean in San Luis Obispo, California, and my dad's a surfer. So I grew up with a very big connection to the ocean and water in general.
I know you're a really busy guy, and we're just really happy to have you here on the show. I think we first really, you got on our radar about just over a year ago when we did our first World Water Day. And of course, I had heard your name before then. And I just want to, again, congratulate you for not only the work that you do, combining arts and advocacy and activism, and you're actually walking your talk and doing these amazing permaculture projects. But I know you are kind of really at the cutting edge of a whole generation of people that are really awake and really doing great stuff. And you're kind of helping to bring a little more vision to that, to the dance community, to the ecstatic dance community, and communities wherever you go. So I think last year you were doing a performance, what was in Costa Rica, correct?
Yeah, last year I was at the Envision Festival in Costa Rica. And before that, I put on a music education retreat where it was 10 days of people learning how to make electronic music and how to DJ. And we actually made a song with David Satori from Beats Antique and Dirtwire. He was one of the teachers there. So his class was a song creation class with everyone there. And then everyone got so inspired that we finished the song. A bunch of people added different hip hop verses to it, and we made a whole music video while we were there. And then I ended up being in Costa Rica when the pandemic started. I was actually in Corcovado in the Osa Peninsula, which is one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. So it was this interesting juxtaposition of like, I'm in one of the most less biodiverse places on the planet, and this pandemic is starting and everyone's talking about it and trying to figure out what's going on. I was at this eco village called Finca at the time. And then I ended up staying in Costa Rica for 7 months and lived in a little community in the Diamante Valley and was going surfing every day, getting involved in some permaculture projects. And that's actually when I started DJing. So then when I moved back to the States, I just got myself out there as a DJ. So it's been relatively recent for me, but it's really taken off. And that's another thing that I love is the integration of music and earth activism and permaculture. And that's a big part of what I've done in the past and what I continue to do. So in 2016, I put on a permaculture tour called Blooming Biodiversity. I could actually share my screen and show you the website if now's a good time to do it.
That would be great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We love B-roll.
Yeah, great. So let's see, desktop, share your screen. And while I'm getting it set up, essentially what we did was we got a team of about 20 people and we went down the West Coast.
I love what you were saying about Costa Rica too, because as Elizabeth was saying at the beginning of the call, there's so many synergistic connections that we're all connecting with each other and actually helping to raise up each other, inspire each other, and also for the whole kind of regenerative sustainability movement. And it's interesting just about Costa Rica, the synchronicity of me meeting Sean King, who's on the call, in Crestone, and his work around sustainable natural building and that type of stuff. And then after we talked, finding out he was living in Sacramento, which is really close to where I'm living in Nirvana City. And also his work around working with local government around land use and stuff. And now we've been collaborating with several other people because we got offered the opportunity to help do a build out for 2,000 acres down on the western coast of Costa Rica. And we'll probably be going down there in April. So yeah, again, it's just like the level of connectivity that we're all finding by meeting each other, and some of these places that are really being activated. And of course, as the old paradigm crumbles, the importance for people like yourself and others and ourselves, like solutionaries and artists, to help bring the movement together and to really ground into a new way of living and creating this kind of new earth paradigm, as again, the old one, the things that didn't work are crumbling and falling away. So again, I'm really excited about what we're going to be able to dig into this call and get Sean and others on this call in just a little bit, and what's happening kind of behind the curtain and what we can bring to light. So definitely would love to see what you want to share. I know you have some B-roll prepared.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. And on that note, actually, some of the things I'm going to share, I'll just show really quickly so that there's a little bit of an overview. Can you all see the screen?
Yep.
So the first thing is this. I'll go into it in a little more detail, but I'm just going to give you the overview of the different things I have to share. This is the tour we did in 2016 called Blooming Biodiversity, where we got a group of 20 people to go down the West Coast. We actually called our production team Solutionary Productions, and you just mentioned that name, Solutionary. And we went to all these different places from Canada to Washington to Oregon to California, and we would put on these work parties. So we'd basically find out whatever each place needed. We'd get a bunch of people, both our team and then the local community, and we'd get everyone to work on the land. And then we'd also bring in music. Sometimes we'd have DJs set up while everyone was digging so people could dance and dig at the same time. Sometimes we would have concerts after so people would work and then get to celebrate and dance. And we'd have workshops and yoga and music. And basically we took everything that we were inspired by from transformational music festivals and we brought it into permaculture action. So this was a 2.5-month tour. And it was pretty nonstop. Every day that we had scheduled for a day off, someone would say, oh, you should come to our farm and check out what we're doing. And so our days off got pretty filled up with other action days, but it was amazing to see how many projects are actually happening on the West Coast and all over the world, especially. But the more we got engaged in this, the more we found out like, wow, there's actually a lot of people doing these things. So yeah, so I can talk a little bit about that. And then I also am a singer-songwriter. I have this music video called The Global Village Tapestry, and it's a song just about this global web of permaculture and eco-villages. And so I actually filmed scenes for this music video at all these different regenerative places I've been to around the world, and I would just get everyone that was there to sing with me. There's in Japan, there's in Costa Rica, there's one in Guatemala, and in
wow, you're activating the next level of the whole mycelial network.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
great
so
work, incredible.
Thanks. Yeah, so it's fun with this song, weaving it all together, because it's a song about the global village tapestry, and then in the music video, it's actually in all these different places around the world. And I can post a link to this in the chat also, just so that you can all see it later. I'll do that in a bit. And then also, I have my music. And I also wanted to briefly mention other projects that my friends are doing. This is Jen Isabel Friend, and she has this website, waterislife.love, and she has a lot of research on water and studying water. And she actually is down in Mexico now, kind of setting up a water lab. She'd actually be a great person to have talk on here. So she has all these videos and resources on her website. So definitely check that out. And then the other thing I wanted to briefly cover is this project in Costa Rica that I'm about to go to. Actually, a week from today, I'm going to fly down to Costa Rica for about 10 days. And we're having an initial founders meeting with the Momentum Collective and a bunch of other people that are coming together to essentially come to this land called Macaw Lodge, which is already a built out retreat center. And they don't have the funding for it yet, but they've already talked to the people that currently live there about the vision, and the family that lives there is totally down for it and actually wants to stay on the land once it's purchased and be part of this project. And so we're just going to go down for a week and share visions, talk about like dynamic governance. And
where is that in Costa Rica, out of curiosity?
Yeah, so here it is on the map. It's an hour from San Jose and only 30 minutes from the coast. So it's kind of an ideal location. It's not too far from the airport. It's very close to the ocean. It's not too far from Dominical area, really close to, if anyone knows about La Ecovia and Alegria, that's a little bit north. So it's a pretty amazing location. And
it's interesting what you said. And I don't want to talk about other templates and other peripheral stuff. We're really here to learn more about you, but I'd love to talk to you a little bit later about the source directory, because we have some templates we've been using to create bioregional connectivity and how to network all the amazing individuals and organizations within a watershed or a bioregion that are doing the work. And it's a great way to just kind of like what you're doing. You're weaving together all of these individuals and projects that are happening, and it really takes someone like you to kind of show up and activate the web and to kind of help weave them together. And we have some existing templates that we can use, but it's great because we all do need to start finding each other and sharing knowledge and resources, creating other ways of energy equity and alternative systems of bartering and working together and sustainability, and also how to implement solutions and to find the people who have the solutions and the technology and the understanding that could be implemented into all these projects, and really create the unity and connectivity that has been so absent for so long here in at least, in a lot of our Western and colonial culture.
Definitely. Yeah, it's true. It's all about how can we weave this web and support each other to do things in right relation, especially with the people that already live in the places that we're going to, the indigenous and the locals of the area. How can we get everyone involved in the best way possible? And I know there's a lot of criticism of all these land projects starting to happen in other countries about the idea of neo-colonialism. And I think there's a lot of ways to do these land projects that aren't colonial, that are actually like in integration and support of the locals, of the indigenous, and of the land. And I think that's a really important conversation to have, especially because there's a lot of people suddenly getting a lot of wealth right now with cryptocurrency and with all these things that are just suddenly all these people are like becoming millionaires overnight or over a couple months. And then they've had this vision of doing an eco-village in a land project, but maybe they're not as rooted or steeped in how to do things in an ethical way. So it's really important to have these kinds of conversations with people that are starting all these new land projects of how we can do it in right relations with everyone in the area and with the land.
Absolutely. And it's been interesting because when we started off, we in the last year, a group
Hello.
a group of us were doing a project, and what we decided.
I'm on another call, actually.
Elizabeth, your mic's on.
Water. It's an amazing current that's rising right now on the planet, and
we'll let her finish.
I know we all can feel it, right? And the more we can align and recognize that we are water, and we are water expressing as life, and if we align with water as the primary intelligence of life, then we're on the current, right? We're not fighting the current, we're on the current of rejuvenation, which is what water does all the time. So that in mind, there are some key acupressure points on the planet that are in crisis right now, one being the Amazon. And
Elizabeth,
I'd love to hear just some talk and awareness of that. And also to say that on World Water Day, we're rallying the world water stewards and regenerative stewards
You might be able
around the
to
world
mute
to
your
really
mic if you want.
create a week
It
of
is interesting what she's
solutions.
saying though.
And invite
it is
everybody
interesting, I'll tell you, it's
as
every
you're
day,
planning
it's just
to think
incredible.
of doing something for that week, either across the whole week or get on with
Well, we'll
another
let her
group
finish.
that
This is
doing
almost like an
something
infomercial for
and
Water
get
Day.
solutions out into the
Totally.
public and create the swell of awareness that we can't deny, because there is a tidal wave that's wanting to come forth. And so I would love to hear you speak, and just with regards to what you envision in terms of restoring the Amazon, because that is the generator of the climate of our water cycle.
Elizabeth,
With this whole process of the Andes and the biggest watershed on the planet. And it is about to lose the protections of the indigenous lands. The Brazilian Congress is voting against that, and it is at 22% deforestation, which is the tipping point. We're at it. We can't wait any longer. So that's my soapbox.
Elizabeth, your mic is on. I don't know who you're talking to, but it's a fascinating side discussion we just heard. Okay, so let's continue on, because again, we're talking about weaving the web. And again, I know Elizabeth's involved in a lot of projects, and that's really what's exciting about these Water Wednesdays, because we're getting to see how we can collaborate and how we can all lean in and support each other. And we're getting more educated, because as Elizabeth says a lot, even though here we live by the Yuba River, or if we're by the Sacramento River, like where Sean is, or the Consumnes River, that it's really the world water systems are connected, and we know that there's a global consciousness, there's a connection there. So it's been really fascinating on these Voices of Water Wednesday calls to hear all the different perspectives of people who work with water, from permaculture to water remediation, people who do science, people who are doing water structuring. It ranges from the spiritual and then cultural and indigenous all the way to the scientific. And it's really been a fascinating experience. And I do want to say, just to rewind real quick, after the call, we do want to talk with you and Jen about really what we can ground in for World Water Days, because your names come up a lot. The work that you're doing, not in a more or less important way, is super critical. And I think that you're one of these amazing globe-trotting solutionaries that are weaving a lot of things together. And I think there's so much more than we can get into with the short time we have today. But again, we just kind of want to take this time to really delve into the world of Bloomerian and know more about your work. You said you might have a little bit of music or something you could share. If that's possible, that would be great to have kind of a creative break from the chat and hear some music and then come back. And again, blending arts and advocacy and activism and action is such an important thing right now in this world. And the fact that you can make it fun. I love what you said, like playing music while people dig, it's like, it gives a whole new meaning to the word dig it.
Yeah,
So,
totally. I dig it.
Great. So if you have any music to share, and then we'll come back and learn a little more about you, and then we'll open it up for questions and a roundtable.
Great. I'll share some music. And also there's one more thing I wanted to share maybe right after the music, but I was recently down in Brazil with Parangi. He has land that he just got in Brazil that his mom's living on, and he's wanting to do permaculture design on it. So I went down with him in December, and it was the most historic rainy season that they've had in over 20 years. So definitely learned a lot about working on the land with water, and kind of the big realization we had while we were there is that really it's all about what the water wants to do, and all the design that we do is designing around the flow of the water. So I have some pictures from that I'll share as well, but first I'll share some music. So let's see, share screen, share sound. And so I'm just gonna play a short clip from this song, The Global Village Tapestry, so that you can all just get a sense of this. It's a 7-minute video, so I'll just play maybe the first minute or so.
Hand by hand we can weave this dream of a global village tapestry. Weave in, weave out, up and down, all around. Hand by hand we can weave this dream of a global village tapestry. Weave in, weave out, up and down, all around. When I dream of harmony around this planet. People caring for this life, not taking it for granted. Caring for the people, caring for the earth, caring for the future beings yet to be birthed. When I dream of harmony around this planet. People caring for this life, not taking it for granted. Caring for the people, caring for the earth, caring for the future beings yet to be birthed. I see people treating each other as equals, stepping out of their doors to write a new sequel of a time when Babylon completely collapsed and people took the power back and functions were stacking functions, functionally finding new ways to harness energy from the sun's mighty rays, and sink slow and store water in the ground with mulch and regenerate the lands from the deserts to the gulfs. I see food growing on rooftops and front and backyards, hands in the soil growing kale and squash and chard. I see murals in the street and so much food to eat that big agro-business can't even compete with the revolution of solutions taking back the land, buying for the people who chose to make a stand. With the revolution of solutions taking back the land, by and for the people who chose to make a stand. Now every culture, every race, every religion, every faith, everybody, every face, every being has a place to be, a place to thrive, a place to fully come alive, a place that we can call our home in this living biodome. Oh.
So yeah, there's the first couple minutes of that. And if you just search Global Village Tapestry, it will come up on YouTube.
Bravo. I got goosebumps.
Thanks. Yeah, this was probably a 4-year project because it took a long time to record and finish the song. And then in the meantime, I was just filming scenes for it. So happy that it's finally out. And I'm actually about to release a couple more songs from the same time and then release the whole thing as a 4-song EP.
Yeah, I want to compliment you too. I know, when we took the name a couple of years ago and we did our first Earthstock Festival, which was a small, like 300 or 400 person event in Nevada City, the idea, we look back, 52 years from today, and it was the Woodstock generation. And, there was the message of, anti-war, human rights, civil rights, women's rights, the back to the land movement, the concept of a peace and love culture, all the things that were happening with the health food movement, and also the explosion of consciousness of plant medicines, of psychedelics, and all these things. It was this huge renaissance in the human condition. So when we adopted the name Earthstock, we really thought about the reality that it's 52 years later, which is actually a Baktun in the Mayan calendar. And a Baktun is when you put all the ceremonial fires out and you let them rest, and then you relight fires for a new cycle. So I just want to acknowledge you as someone. I'm not quite a baby boomer. I'm not that old. I have a little gray, but I'm not that old. But, I grew up listening to so much of the music from the Woodstock generation and from the beat culture that had a lot of deep meaning for a lot of people and helped wake a lot of people up. And somehow over the last few decades, the music industry has really watered down any messaging and has kind of homogenized and sterilized a lot of the powerful ability for music to wake people up and get them inspired for real change. So I wanted to bring that up briefly to just compliment you and so many artists, people like Parangi and others, Rising Appalachian, and so many groups right now that are really at this cutting edge of arts and this next level of activism in the sense of bringing sustainability, regenerative culture, and solutions to the forefront. And that's why I was really happy and honored to have you on this call today, because you really are walking your talk and you're doing it. And you're one of those, with as much humility as I know you have, you're definitely a personality, along with others, that is at the forefront of this whole resurgent movement of this generation that are taking back our divine rights and working with water, working with the earth to help create this new earth paradigm that is so vital right now at this transitional part of human history as the old falls away. So I just wanted to, again, acknowledge you about that, and looking forward to, continue to collaborate and to help, get your message out to even more people who might not be exposed to your work yet.
Great. I appreciate that. Yeah. I think the more we all show up in these ways and collaborate in what we're doing and weave, the more we can, spread this to a wider movement and make these big things happen. And it's exciting. I want to briefly mention, actually, this week in Denver, these couple weeks is the Denver Ethereum conference. So I've been going to some of the events, and it's actually been amazing to see how many people are wanting to have the conversation about regeneration within this whole thing, where it's like, I know there's all the criticism of blockchain being super carbon heavy, and there's a lot of people wanting to figure out how to make it more regenerative and also leverage like NFTs to support tree planting. There's this whole NF tree thing, which a group I'm working with has an NFT project, and it's actually a concept that I've heard at least 5 different people come up with the idea and think that they're the first person to have the idea, but there's definitely, it's in the collective of instead of just making NFTs for profit, it's like, how can we leverage some of that profit or most of that profit to actually do reforestation and carbon offset? And it's not just about getting carbon neutral, but carbon negative is actually the goal.
Is that what John Connors?
I'm not sure. I don't know about John Connors. Probably. I mean, anyone that's doing anything in crypto and blockchain for the most part is here in Denver at the moment.
Okay, great. Good to know. Well, again, we have so much to talk about than the little bit of time we have today. But he's with Regen NFT. But let's go forward. I want to make sure that you have proper space to tell us more about your work, and then we'll bring some other folks in for questions, and we'll kind of ping pong some discourse around for a little bit, have a roundtable. Great.
Well, I just showed some of my singer-songwriter music, and I'm going to show just a little clip of me DJing also. And let's see. Yeah, here we go. Let me make sure that the audio is selected. Yeah, share sound. So this is a little clip from me DJing. Full screen, there we go. There we go. Like I was mentioning earlier with my DJ sets, I start with very mellow energy. This is a song actually with the girls from Rising Appalachia singing. The song's by Veer McCoy and Evan Frazier.
Veer from Desert Dwellers. Veer from Desert Dwellers and Hamza Lila, right?
Yeah, he's not part of Desert Dwellers, but he's part of Hamza Lila and House of Hamza, as well as the Doggone Lights. And then Evan Frazier is in Dirtwire and Bolo and some other projects. So yeah, this is just a little video I made for live stream. And then in the middle, it builds up the energy a little bit more. Feels very watery themed with all the lights and the tapestry in the background and everything too. This one is a Desert Dweller song. So of course this is an hour-long video, but I just wanted to show a couple little moments of it. And so that's been really fun DJing a lot, especially around here in Boulder and Denver. And I'm actually in planning mode with some different teams to organize a couple regenerative, sustainable conferences and events here in Colorado. That's also going to involve DJs and music. And that's really the way to get a lot of people there. And then I've done some events where it's like a permaculture action event where we do a ecstatic dance first, and then a bunch of people show up, and then all of a sudden we take them into the garden close by, and they're learning about permaculture and getting their hands in the soil. And some people knew what they were getting themselves into, but other people just thought they were coming to dance, and all of a sudden they're planting things in the garden, and they're like, I didn't know I was going to be doing this today. And it's amazing to see how that music can just like open up the gateway for people to get into earthworks.
Bravo. I know there's another group here in the Nevada City area. They go around and do drumming in schools, and it's like the same thing. They plant fruit trees and get people's hands in the dirt, and are really, again, active about not just talking about solutions, but really getting people involved and, excuse the pun, getting their hands dirty. So
yeah,
great work. So why don't we do this? We have a few people on the call. If other people want to like ask any questions of Bloom, or we can kind of open up the discussion. But before we do that, I just want to mention, I'm working with Sean and a group of about 20 people. We're working on getting a place in Crestone to set up a whole academy of regenerative culture. And over my last tour a few weeks ago, we were in Boulder, Denver, Taos, Santa Fe, Paonia, Durango, Telluride, Sedona, Flagstaff, and Cottonwood. And there's a lot of people that are there and a lot of people moving there that are feeling activated to be in the Four Corners area to set up and to actualize this kind of new earth paradigm reality. And a lot of that, like you said, it's about sustainability. It's about right relations with each other. It's right relations with ourselves, with the environment, with the elementals, with indigenous communities. So it's so great that you're so close, because there is, and again, I don't want to take up bandwidth talking too much about it, but the level of connectivity and potentiality of what we're all doing and being able to cross-pollinate as avatar level solutionaries is very high. So
Yeah, it's true. And just real quick before we go into the questions, on that note, since you mentioned Crestone, I just want to show this thing we're working on. This website's not actually even public yet, so you're all getting the sneak peek, but we're putting on, I'm helping to organize the Colorado Sustainable Living Conference. We played around with the words regenerative and convergence, but we wanted to make it like accessible, because not everyone knows about the word regenerative versus sustainable. So we wanted to kind of bring more people in, but really we're wanting to bring all the different organizations and groups and farms that are doing solutionary things, especially in Colorado, but also beyond Colorado. It's just going to happen to be hosted in Colorado, but we especially want all the Colorado groups and projects to be here so we can essentially have like a roundtable discussion of how we can all work together, because there's all these amazing people doing all these amazing things, but we're not necessarily as networked and connected as we could be. So the idea is to have this conference to bring people together and see how we can actually all support each other. So just wanted to give you all the early sneak peek, and I'm sure there's a way that we could get your project involved in Crestone, like either to just give a talk about what you're doing or tell people about it during the conference. But this is an exciting thing that we're going to be doing, and of course, there will be some music at it, and then it's connected to the Heart Fire Festival, which will happen at the same place, but in the fall, and that's a little bit more of a music festival, but still has an activist focus to it.
wow, great work.
Michael, can I mention the Regenesis gathering in that area for World Water Week? We're expanding World Water Day to make it a World Water Week with Week of Solutions for Regenerative Behavior. And it's going to be at the Joyful Journeys Hot Springs, 18th through 20th. And that will be a broadcast on Voices of Water here. And then also we're having basically 13 hours of water solutionaries on World Water Day on the 22nd. And then on the 21st, we're actually opening up our archives from last year's Voices of Water. And we have over 30 hours of water solutions recorded in our archives, but we're going to pick 6 hours of it to run on Monday. Maybe more, we'll see. But I just really want to mention that, and to recognize that as we've been called to do that in that week, on that day, it's happening all over the world. Fridays for Future is calling a global week of action. This group that I was monitoring on my earphones with Zach Weiss, they're planning something, talking to somebody else and they're planning something and talking to somebody else, right? So if we just really all focus on solutions and bring a week of solutions over that week and do it in a coordinated blast, a swell of water consciousness and water unity, it could really turn the tide, I believe.
Nice pun, touche.
In the right direction.
Yeah, I think
right?
the spotlight changed again. We didn't quite see you during that.
Okay, that's all right.
So I will say this. After this call, I am talking about bringing Bloom to Crestone for, the problem is I think he's so popular with Regenesis, we only have space for about 50 people because it is a whole weekend with over 30 some odd different presentations. And then, as you know, Monday, we're going to bring in some of the Hopi elders for water ceremony, which is the first full day of spring. And that's going to be at Zapata Falls. And we're going to go to some of the stupas. And then, of course, Tuesday is World Water Day. So after this call, Bloom and I have been in discussion about how to get him to be able to potentially be at the event. And not only that, I want to just rewind for another quick second, because I think what Bloom said about a couple of people he works with, I'm trying to remember the woman's name, not Jessica, who works with water that you mentioned, who's in Mexico right now.
Yeah, Jen Isabel Friend. I'll post
Yes.
the website in the chat too.
Yeah, I think, and I think she was part of it last year, brought in through Dab and Skonberg, or someone brought her onto the World Water Day. But there are a couple of people like yourself and Jen Isabel that we really want to showcase on World Water Day. So I know there's more nuts and bolts production stuff to discuss after the call, but absolutely, we're finding each other, and great work on the conference in Denver. That looks like, or Boulder area. That's going to be amazing. And like Elizabeth was saying on her phone call, this isn't about counterculture or alternatives anymore. This is really to the point of, without fear about the future and the ability for human beings to survive through all of these earth changes and collapsing of the old paradigm. So it's not something that's an alternative. This is actually the path that we need to be on, very much like the Hopi elders say. We're at a crossroads of human evolution. We choose self-preservation or we choose self-destruction. So I really want to emphasize that, because some people will be like, oh, that's nice. You have an organic garden and you do permaculture, or you're into natural medicine, or you're into solar power, these types of things. But again, we're moving it out of the counterculture into the mainstream, because this really is the path and the solution for the broken human condition and wrong relationship to the planet and really to each other. We're innovating our way through this. So I just, again, want to really emphasize that this is the future now.
Thank you, Michael. And I wanted to address Bloom's poster and the use of sustainable. I get exactly why you put it on the poster perfectly, but I would also challenge us to recognize, even in our own language, that sustaining is not enough. We have to regenerate. We have to, and what Michael just said, what's at stake is our children's ability to thrive on a planet, to live on a hospitable planet. That is what we're gambling with in this generation if we do not wake the fuck up, and excuse my French. But I mean, it's just so simple and so clear. And the more we focus on water and the degree at which we're degrading the water cycle and the water's ability to allow us to thrive. Like, water's reaching the holding capacity of what she can take of our bad behavior. Simple, right? So how do we simply just flip the mirror? And I feel it happening. So, really, we're our children's future, the choices we make and how we inspire others. So I would encourage you to really make that point in your conference, that, really make it a talking point, that we've used sustainability on the poster, but actually what we wanted to say was this.
That's our plan. Draw them in with the word sustainable and then tell them why we should be using the word regenerative instead. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, it was a long conversation. Actually, I was really rooting for us to call it the Regenerative Living Conference, but the people I'm working with decided on sustainable, but I understand where they're coming from. And that will be my goal also, is to convert everyone to start using the word regenerative instead and thinking in that mindset.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because, I'm doing an event. I just partnered with one of the founders of Earth Day. And what we've been talking about is, again, 52 years ago was the original Earth Day, when people tried to bring a message about right relationship with the environment. So in my meeting with the founder of Earth Day, I was talking about, well, Earth Day came out, it was all about environmental awareness and about self-sustainability and right relationship with the planet, which was an important message, especially when it came out in 1972. But I said, what we're trying to do right now with the Earthstock Foundation is we're trying to bring into the mainstream vocabulary and understanding that we have to move towards regenerative. The reason being, because if we say Earth Day or we say sustainable, people instantly go to, okay, the environment, like it has something to do with the outside external world. But what we've realized is, and even through the idea of community resilience and emergency preparedness and how do we become more resilient, it's not just about preparing for wildfires or floods or catastrophes. How do we become more resilient and emotionally and spiritual intelligent as human beings to be able to flow and function through these times of Koyaanisqatsi, or as the Hopi say, of these times of these earth changes. So part of that is, again, we're going, the Earth Day, the sustainability, the resilience, that we are moving to the awareness of regenerative is. And regenerative has, and this is what we talk about with the foundation, we're trying to connect the nodes of full spectrum regenerative design, because it's not just about earth, water, fire, air, and the environment. It's not just about our own regenerative ability around our spiritual, mental, and physical way of being. We have to regenerate anything. We have to look at how arts and culture, and that's why it was great to have you on the show today, is we have to look at how do arts and culture enrich our lives and our quality of life, but how do we use them as a way to do being able to inspire people to action? How do we look at these ideas of regenerative economics and alternative currency and energy equity and bartering and trading and these types of things? But also we're looking at things like health and wellness, environment and ecology, alternative technologies, and also something that gets left out of the conversation a lot is social justice, peace and social justice, where there are marginalized communities of people, including a lot of indigenous communities, that need to be brought to this roundtable. So one of the things I constantly talk about, and as a musician bang the drum to, is full spectrum regenerative design. We have to take the traditional knowledge of what has worked, and we have to implement that and innovate it into the moment, but we're creating something new. And no one knows exactly what that looks like. And that's why we have to do these, what we call regenerative roundtables, because people have different parts of this grand design and puzzle that they bring to the table. But we need a redesign and a restructuring of everything, almost from A to Z. So I want to commend you. I did see that regenerative solutions on the poster. And anyways, we'll dive into that more, but I'm glad we did touch upon that on the conversation. And obviously seeing what you're doing, you're absolutely on that wave of full spectrum regenerative design and culture. Again, synthesizing music and permaculture and activism and inspiring people. And now you're on the verge of launching this huge conference. So again, much respect and kudos to you. And I'm glad Elizabeth kind of helped amplify, the message.
That's what we have to do. And we have to start telling the whole truth, right? Not just part of the truth, or be afraid to tell the truth, or hang back because we're going to worry about what people say and how they're going to react, because this is a tide, this is a swell that needs to happen. And I think it's a perfect opportunity to really, even if you can't, just let's get this swell from today to Earth Day and create this global swell of really bringing the solutions. And any group that you're involved with, invite them to participate in the week of solutions. And it's not even anything anybody controls. It's just this human critical mass that I believe we can bring in the next, because if we don't do it, I believe this strongly, if we don't, and I'm going to get political here for a minute, if we don't do it and Russia attacks Ukraine, we're going to be in another war. And we will be so distracted with that. I mean, and so let's just poof, turn the tide and move it in an entirely different direction with our solutions. And I believe that between now and Earth Day, we could create a massive global swell of, especially if we bring it to the youth, because the youth carry the moral authority that we are jeopardizing their future to thrive. And if the youth rises up and say, hey, you don't have our, hey, boomers, you don't have our permission. We don't give you permission to do that. Sorry. It's just not going to go. It's not going to fly. You don't get to do that. And I'm feeling this, I'm feeling this huge vibratory rush right now because we're all so connected to so many circles that if every single one of us just said, we're doing Solutions Week, this is Solutions Week, and it's not a week of protest. It's a week of solutions and it's a week of actions. And we do it by a giant planetary cleanup day. Like we call for everybody in their communities to clean up wherever they are, just clean it up. Everybody can do it, right? It's easy. And then what to do with the waste. So then we have to then take it to the next step of implementation of the regenerative concepts of what do we do with the waste. So that's the next follow through, is how do we process all the waste that's gathered, and everybody take a picture of the pile of waste, right? And we create this challenge where everybody, who collects the most waste, who deals with it in the best way, plastic, get it out of our water, right? It's like we need this giant planetary cleanup day. And so if we turn World Water Day into, because you go to the UN World Water Day site, there's nothing there, nothing at all. So we can't let them get away with that.
Well, I want to comment as much.
Yeah, let's get a rowdy debate.
All right. Well, as much good as the United Nations does, and I was there in 1992 when Agenda 21 was signed, and also Maurice and Hannah Strong were there. That's where I met them, who developed the whole Baca project in Crestone. We have to keep in mind that we can get political, but there aren't necessarily going to be political solutions, that the people have to lead and then leaders will have to follow, because
No,
part of
they've had their 52 years, right?
Yeah, and part of the sustainable development goals, I have to say, that was written into Agenda 21, which is now Agenda 2030. There is number 18 is the depopulation agenda. They don't see how the world will survive unless they get rid of over 50% of the population. So I just want to bring that to light. It's a little bit dark, but I just want us to talk authentically about the reality of, like, I mean, even here in Nevada County, they're recalling the Board of Supervisors right now because of decisions they made on their own that did not represent people. So again, there's this huge movement where people are waking up and saying, wow, our leadership is broken, and they're not actually leading anything except large corporate and financial self-interest. They're not leading with this regenerative mentality, and they're not leading in service to people or to the planet or humanity. And with that, I also want to invite Sean. I know Sean is brilliant, and I'm sure he has some commentary to add to the discourse. Who, he does so many things. He works with government around land use. He works with natural building. So I just want to invite him in if he had anything to add to the discourse here.
Yeah, and Ali and Angelique as well. I'd love to hear from everybody.
Oh, Angelique's here. All right.
Yeah. Hi, Sean.
How's it going?
It's been an amazing day. That's all I can say. Amazing week.
And I am going to have to hop off pretty soon, but I'll be able to stay for just a couple more shares.
Okay. Well, I hope to meet you, Bloom, in Crestone. I'm coming out.
Yeah, I hope so.
Me as
Awesome.
well. Looking
Oh,
forward
so
to
this
that.
is actually, except for Ali. Ali's anchoring England over there, but I think every one of us on the call right now is going to be in Crestone and Moffat for their generous. Yay!
Yeah,
Go team!
gonna be fun. I just want to say that I think that there's a huge opportunity to transform the way that we do government from, what I would call, one that's like reactive and punitive to proactive and assistive. And I'm getting involved in Creststone specifically in a local movement to do that, because we have a situation where there's a space right now where there's virtually no restrictions in the code on anything you might want to do with sustainable housing. But there's just been an effort to modify the code by somebody to eliminate tiny houses and composting toilets and all sorts of things that are, quite, pretty essential to people living more reasonably on the planet, and housing people at lower incomes, which is really important to regenerative society, is not requiring people to have ridiculous incomes. Because as one of my elder mentors, Ianto Evans, said once, dollars equals environmental destruction. So the more you run money through the circuitry, the more likely it is that you're destroying things. So, enabling people to take care of themselves locally and sustainably is incredibly important. So there's an opportunity to engage with the local government directly and actually change the way things are done, so that, you change, instead of having kind of a policing of what people are doing on their own land, and a punitive pushback against someone who isn't finishing a building, or isn't building large enough, or isn't doing this or isn't doing that. Instead, you have proactivity and things like a volunteer barn rising department, where people get together and go help someone build their house, or a volunteer cleanup department, just like you have a volunteer fire department. Everybody's familiar with volunteer fire departments. Why don't we have, volunteer stream cleaning department, for example? Clean out all the debris and pollution sources from a creek. You have groups of people that are, local government style entities, nonprofits, that get together and get things done. So I'm just, speaking to, Michael's statement about the UN and, the endpoint that they wind up on, which is like, oh, there are too many people. So we got to have a world with fewer people in it. Well, how can you possibly continue walking down a path that winds up there and expect there to be any positive change in the population of the world in that direction? Yeah, sure, we're going to lie down and die. Fine, that sounds good. What? No, you need positive engagement here, and that's kind of one of the problem with our culture, is that it tends to be conflict, punishment, control oriented in general.
Yeah, and reward comes from scarcity.
Right, reward comes from scarcity, and facility comes from extraction. So you have a more facile life if you make more money, and you make more money usually, typically, because you're extracting more from the world or from other people, or there's more transfer of wealth and material to you, away from the land and away from people who might be wanting to sustain themselves on the land. So
can I ask pose a question to that?
Sure.
So what if we took the dollar out of, right? We just said the dollar is killing the earth, and this goes back to your rights of nature, right? And I'm very interested in the idea that ecocide actually becomes a crime. So along with this, that people, and so when we think of I'm getting completely revolutionary here. So this is just an idea. The dollars are being concentrated and hoarded in this very thin, right? And those dollars represent the earth. The earth has been pulled out of where it exists into those dollar values. What if that system just crumbled? Do we have the resiliency right now to survive that crumble? So how do we transition on this bridge? Like, we're on this bridge between a decaying world and a flourishing world. How do we build the bridge between the two? In our choices, like if everybody chooses, yes, we choose life. We're choosing life. How do we bridge that in this period of time where, you know, where we're not in one world or the other, I suppose.
Right. Well, I would say that, you know, the long arc of change has been a combination of monetization of everything and delocalization of everything. So instead of, you know, growing your own fuel in the form of firewood and knowing how to make a rocket stove or something that allows you to keep yourself warm and cook with almost no fuel input, and having capacity be communally held, like it is, for example, with the Amish, like an adult Amish people know how to do pretty much everything to take care of everything. So they can go, you know, everyone gets together, and when it's time to build a barn, you got 30 adults building barns and cooking meals for people building barns and all that kind of jazz. And it happens. And everyone knows that when it comes time for one of the people who helped build the barn to have another barn built, everyone else will show up for them. And there really isn't even a requirement for money. So all money is it's a way that we've drifted into to take care of ourselves, which unfortunately means we're actually taking care of money first and ourselves second. And that becomes a deeper philosophical point that I don't quite want to get into, but you'll hear about it if you attend my talk at the gathering, the Regenesis gathering, because I'm not just going to be talking about natural building, I'm going to be talking at a much deeper level than that. So the how part of it, I think, starts with localism, because you can undo the money when you're local, when you're face to face with someone and you can help them say, hey, come on over. I'll help you paint your house next week. You can come over and help me pound some cob out from my house on this week. No money was exchanged. You just cut the money circuit. You put yourself back on the earth because you're using local resources. You're creating community with another person by being,
Sean, can I just pause you just for a second there? Bloom is on his way out. He has to get on to something else.
Okay.
So we'll just take a minute to thank our guest, our lovely creative minstrel. Thank you, Bloom. Thank you, Robin.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure speaking about water and permaculture and regeneration and music and all these things with everyone. And it's great to hear what you're all up to, and look forward to hopefully seeing you all in person soon. So thanks so much.
Absolutely, Bloom. And we'll talk about Regenesis and some other stuff here in the next days. So appreciate you taking time to come on the call.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Right. Well met. Take care.
Well met. Ciao.
Ciao.
All right.
There we go.
So I'm not sure what more I'm not sure what more I would say there, but that's kind of my perspective on it, is to relocalize, to demonetize, and to create assistive structures rather than punitive or extractive or control-based structures in local government and in communities.
Right. So for me, that is the bridge that the Watershed Wisdom Council and a network of councils could begin doing. And very, very localized, like, no more than 15 people around a section of watershed, right? So these small groups then network, ridge to reef. The watershed gets like water, right? It all flows to the oceanic parliament.
Spotlight is off again. I think to add to that,
it's hard to talk. It's like chewing gum and scratching your belly at the same time. Right?
We're doing this, and I missed her animated thing. I hope I can go back and watch some of that. But right now we have Rachel Tice in LA, who's already aggregated over 300 individuals and businesses that are doing regenerative stuff there. And I'm also working currently right now with a couple of women in Boulder that want to initiate the source directory there. So again, I just wanted to bring in like some practical, grounded things of, okay, where do we go from here? And the idea of creating networks and templates is so imperative that we can work smarter. We have to get off the corporate platforms. So I'm just happy because something that we created 5 years ago is finally making sense to the masses. So what's great is the source directory we're doing is going to be for the four corners. It's going to be from Boulder down to Sedona, all the way out to Taos and Santa Fe, and includes probably a dozen of like super key communities, all which are going to have representatives of them at the Regenesis gathering. We have people coming from Flagstaff, Sedona, from Cottonwood. We have people coming from Paonia, which is kind of like the agricultural breadbasket. So I'm really happy that, you know, as we know, we've all been doing a lot of work for a long time. I'm just so happy that finally we're getting traction. We're getting out of our silos of the work we've been doing, or starting to find that connectivity with others. It's like, oh, just what Sean was saying.
Michael,
oh, you need this, I need that. Oh, I have this. Oh, here's a template. Okay, here's this.
right.
And really starting to move forward. And I want to say, in a bizarre way, the postponing of the Earthstock Festival last year turned out to be an amazing blessing.
You just lost audio, Michael. Are you hearing me? You're on mute. We can't hear you.
Figure
Michael,
out what
you
our
lost
primary
audio.
focuses
Okay,
were
now
for
you're back.
initiatives and projects, which right now, besides the template of the source directory, is this Voices of Water channel, which will be carrying Regenesis event. We're going to stream the whole weekend, World Water Day, including our day of, we're going to be doing some spiritual work in the Crestone area, also with Earth Day coming up, but really focusing right now on the Crestone project, and also on the project, which is now 2,000 acres in Costa Rica, and even have Bloom on the phone talking about what they're doing, just probably, you know, a day drive north of the property that we're working with the foundation, is exciting. And I want to say a big part of it is, how do we find these nodes of synergy and connectivity? And that's why, again, with people like Elizabeth and Sean, Angelique, and, you know, we have literally like 40 people that I call, you know, affiliates that all have technologies and solutions
Right.
and things that we can actually implement. And right now I'm actually in discussion with Alan and the Hawaiian government that want to implement a whole regenerative project right there. So it's definitely like, you know, it's nice to have all of our visions, our effort, our dreams, our the work that we've been doing starting to be affirmed and get traction. Because as you said, Elizabeth, it's not, you know,
So
we're really at the tipping point right now. So
Yeah.
again, you know, the
so all
time
those
that
people
we all
that you
commit to be on these
mentioned,
calls is so key, just to keep activating the synergy and coming up with the collaborative spirit. And again, my production nuts and bolts mind is, okay, we've talked about all this stuff. How do we implement? So
so
this
that's
has
the
been a great
question
call, and I'm
everybody's
going to be really
asking,
happy
right?
to have Jen, Isabel, and
Are you
Bloom,
hearing me, Michael?
and possibly Parangi as part of our events as we go over the next few months, all the way up to Earth Day, and now this sustainable conference that's going to be happening
Sean, are you hearing me?
in the
Thumbs up,
Boulder
thumbs
area
down?
the first weekend
Yeah,
of
I don't
June.
think
So
Michael's
very
hearing me.
exciting, very dynamic, energizing, and affirming call today.
We can't hear you, Michael. You can't
What's
hear
that?
us. You're not hearing us, I don't think.
I am now. For some reason, I couldn't hear anything. Maybe I was just talking too loud.
You were talking too loud. You were blowing out the circuits. So, I mean, this is the question. How do we do that, right? What's the next step? How do we get into action? And of those people you mentioned, how many are in the same watershed, right? And we begin to start really working together. Here, it's hard, as I said, it's kind of like chewing gum and walking at the same time, to put myself on spotlight. Of those, 10 people you mentioned in on your list, how many? I mean, just that there is a Watershed Wisdom Council, and you begin talking together and saying, what can we do? And where do we? And who's in the same watershed, and who's in connected watersheds, and we just start doing it. We just start doing it with those around us in whatever way we can, and learn as much as we can, and have the resources available. And that's happening all over. That all these
Well-
incredible resources of permaculture and, how do we really revive the earth? And we start doing it right where we are. And that's
Well,
the only way we can do it. And none of us are going to control it, right? It's just, we all have to do exactly what we can do where we are.
Yeah, non-hierarchical bioregionalism. And I will say this, not to put more work on your plate, I think it's time, I think it's time for on the Voices of Water channel to have a weekly Watershed Wisdom Council time where you can start, because what I find is to be able to have prolonged connectivity and communication is the hardest thing, because there's so many brilliant
Yeah,
people
well,
doing
really,
so many.
our Wednesday watersheds are that.
Yeah,
That's what they are, right? And we can do another one very specific to the Watershed Wisdom Councils, but any one of us gathering at any one time. And that's why the Watershed Wisdom Councils is a concept. It's going to form itself if we plant the seeds of the concept everywhere. It's a really simple concept.
well, as you know, planting a seed is one thing, but getting people to water it and mulch
So the
it,
source directory is that watering can.
it seems so. And I'm happy to, I just gave it to Rachel and to the people now in the Four Corners, and I said, just own it. And there is a way to have it support community projects, just like how we decided last week with the channel, how we can do stuff for World Water Day to support Project
Yeah,
Aisha.
the Foundation Aisha, yeah. Yeah.
So Angelique's very quiet today. I don't know if she's busy or she's waiting to dive into the pool here, but I just want to acknowledge her taking the time to be on the call. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about what, I know Sean has to go soon too, but I'd love to hear a little more about what you did today with your animation series or something with Zach Weiss. If you could elaborate, that would be great.
Yeah, it was a great presentation. He was just sharing some of the work that he's been doing over.
Hey, Angelique, is it
Yeah.
possible for you to come on screen?
Yeah, if you guys don't mind me, like in my kitchen. And
No, we love your kitchen. That's where you're nourished.
that because
There we go. Now I can put you, now I can give you a spotlight.
What's for lunch?
I'm sure you don't want the spotlight.
You've got a very blurry kitchen. How do you do that? You can hide all the dishes in the sink.
I'm trying to prepare some food that. So anyway, yeah, it was a good presentation. He was just sharing some work that he's been doing with his team in bringing his animations that are showing pretty much just, in these really short snippets, what we're looking at in terms of the damage that we've done, the restoration that's possible, where it's going and where it could go. So kind of presenting it in an option basis, which really just, I think, simplifies it for a lot of people. Instead of having to go and do all the research, it's all the research in just a really short video that really is poignant and definitive in what we're seeing and what we're experiencing, all of us in our own watershed. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited to collaborate with him. I think that his work is awesome, and I hear you guys talking about getting it done. I like working with people who are actually just doing it and not talking about it. That's very encouraging to me and where I want to put my time and energy. And I know that those talks have to happen for that work to come, but yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of talking going on. I'm really over all the talking. Just want to I want to participate in some true action.
Okay, and tell us what you're doing, love.
Yeah,
There's your action.
Right now, I am working on my own waters. I am realigning, and working on a personal level, not so much out in the world. And I feel like this is just as important because I can't give what I don't have. So at this point in where I'm at, I've actually withdrawn. I'm being very selective in who I'm giving my time to and where I'm putting my energies, because I have been in so many meetings of just talk, and I'm tired of that. And like I said, my energy is shifting and changing, and I'm not sure where. I'm not sure how that's gonna settle. So I'm just being patient, and I'm sitting with my waters. I'm going to the water. I'm playing my drum with the water, and I'm really just paying attention to what's happening within, so that I'm being guided in a good way to where to expend my energy in an efficient and effective way. That's the work I'm doing right now.
Valuable work. The most valuable work.
And thanks for asking.
And that's for me the step we really have to take is going from that talking inside, not outside, and really dropping into our own inner waters. And because transformation is an inside job.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot.
If talk can lead us there, then that's awesome. But it has taken quite a while. I've listened to 52 years of talk. At least. But there's so many people doing wonderful things at the same time.
And I think part of that too is seeing what people, and I learned this on my kind of Regenesis winter tour promoting the event. There's so many great people doing great stuff that I'm like, oh, I don't have to do A, B, and C. I can just do D, E, and F. And then it's like, oh, someone else is doing E. I can just do D and F. And I have come to this point now, besides my own personal evolutionary work and being in right relationship with Source, that what I've been seeing over the last few months, it's like part of Earthstock Foundation is enhancing the connectivity and the synergistic actions of the people that are doing specific projects. And it really right now, my primary focus has kind of turned from Northern California to the Four Corners region. And there was a lot of things that affirm that. And again, practical things like these roundtables and getting the source directory template, doing the Regenesis thing, getting the Crestone property. But I'm also back here in California because this week is when they just finished the environmental review for the reopening of the Idaho Maryland mine, and there was a lot of meetings with the irrigation district about that. And I can't just say, okay, well, I've been here 13 years in Nevada County, and, people are constantly having challenges about collaborating, working together. And there's only so much I'm willing to take on without a concerted collaborative effort of people working on stuff. But yeah, I'm still back here about to do a whole weekend or a whole week next week of rallies and gatherings to raise awareness and to oppose the reopening of the mine. Because if they do, draining millions of gallons of water from the aquifer and the contamination that'll be released and the environmental pollution and the sound pollution and the devastation.
There's a risk of destroying the entire Sacramento.
Yep. So
and out into the bay and.
Yeah, and I have more bandwidth to be here in California to do that, which is my intuitive passion of what I'm being called to do, because I've also realized seeing the big picture in the Four Corners, I'm meeting a lot of people that are doing specific pieces, and it's like, oh, okay, so I can just focus on creating platforms of connectivity and action items. And again, I keep saying to that, and sometimes I feel so yang, and my producer Nuts and Bolts brain is like, okay, action items, what are we doing? And not only that, but even with my foundation right now with Earthstock, we have our weekly meetings, and it's coming down to accountability for follow through when people make commitments to do things, and things are starting to work. And I mean, even this opportunity in Costa Rica now, just falling on our lap, and I'm really excited about again of some of these new relationships with people like Sean and Lake and others who have really practical skill sets and knowledge and information to add. And my obvious focus right now is the Spirit is asking me to put together this global academy for everything regenerative under one roof, full spectrum regenerative design under one roof with programs, curriculums, teachers, products, people we can broker out, and to becoming a living template of that in Crestone, and now being offered these opportunity for 2,000 acres in Costa Rica. So anyway, I just want to add that because we have to, and it does take a lot of work. Like Angelique was saying, we have to do a lot of our own inner work and self-reflection. We can't just be the angry activists yelling and complaining about stuff and talking. We have to kind of get our hands dirty. So it does require that internal work to do, so that we can know intuitively where we're supposed to be and what piece of the puzzle we're bringing to the big picture. Because without that, then we can get burnt out. We can, we just get exhausted. And like you said, Elizabeth, you've been doing this for, 50 years. Now is the time, and we're the people. So just, again, very affirming to have these calls and to get a sense of what other people are doing. And I have to say, every day meeting more people, seeing the big meta design of how the pieces can potentially fit together. It's super exciting.
And we each carry a piece, right? We're a piece of the piece. We are the world piece. If we all piece together. If we all piece together. I believe that song. When that song came out, I was like, oh yeah, I get that. It definitely inspired me.
So I know we're probably getting towards the end of the call. And I want to, again, thank Angelique and Sean for being on the call. I have a love and appreciation for you guys. And I know we're going to make some positive waves here in the future. I mean, we already are. And just kind of really super excited. I'll be back out in Colorado in a week. And there's already a Paonia Roundtable, another one in Boulder, one in Taos. So, just going out there on an intuitive whim, it's like I can already see these sprouts starting to happen. But like you said, Angelique, it takes more than talk. We can't plant a seed in fertile ground and just think it's going to do itself. We have to cultivate it, but it's also important we know, okay, who's making the compost, who's doing the watering, who's doing the social permaculture. There's so many pieces to do this full spectrum regenerative design work. And I just appreciate both you being on the call, and of course, Elizabeth, since what we initiated, we didn't know how deep the pool was that we got into last year.
I knew it was unfathomable. I just didn't know how far down I could swim.
So
Yeah.
just to finish, if anyone had any closing thoughts or words, I want to make sure Spotlight's working so we can get your faces and your presence on it.
All right, Spotlight. The Zoot Suit Spotlight. My thought is, like, maybe we just each give a quote. My thought is Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, be like water, my friend. And what if we could all just be like water?
I thought you were going to say, yeah. Karate
like
chop
water,
the
my
illusion.
friend. All right. So if anyone else has any closing, like, I'd love for maybe Angelique to give us a closing prayer if you're up for it, girl.
Sure. Hold on one second.
Because so much of it is just simply coming into resonance with our covalent bond, the hydrogen, oxygen, union of light of the sun coming into liquid form to nourish the earth.
Yeah.
Hang on. You just want to be your name there for a moment?
Yeah, I was doing something else and then the screen went away and I don't know how to bring it back where I can be on there. Start.
Yeah, I really want to thank Sean for being a new friend, and also like what he's really bringing to the table. And and it really is about, we have to vet out all the noise and the chatter at some point, and we have to find the people we're really resonant with, of how we can be the most effective and supportive of each other in the cause. So yeah.
And we all just do it all at once.
My quote would be, the work is in person.
The
So
work is in person. Yeah.
I want to acknowledge and I'm grateful for the organizing this call, and that we get together regularly as we can, and for the role that the virtual, the World Wide Web has played in connecting me with people, but that's only an introduction. It's not, it's not the collaboration.
Right. The map is not the terrain.
Right, exactly. So the work is in person. That would be my quote.
Yeah, that's a great quote, Sean. I completely agree with you. Put your feet in the water.
My quote is, I don't know if I have a quote. Listen to your water. It's from Angelique.
Perfect.
Wise old sage
Yeah.
from way back when.
Yep. On our way to be a world crone one day.
Someday. Not any day soon, though. Just
Not any day soon. Well, you can be a crone at any age.
No,
The crone is about the wisdom, right? Being a wisdom keeper.
Yeah.
So how about a prayer, girl?
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Elizabeth, for holding the space. Yeah, so we'll invite the water to show her presence, to be here, to be present with us, in, with, and around us, for our eyes and our heart to see her in her beauty, in her nurturing, loving kindness, and really being receptive and stepping into the ability that we have to receive even more and even more and even more of her love. And as we do our personal work, and as we pay attention to those triggers and to those people and to those teachers that are teaching us the hows and how nots, to refine us to be in an ever higher present state of receiving and acknowledging that the lessons are in everything, in everyone, and everywhere around us, when we are in communion with the water that is around us and that is us. So thank you, Source Mother. Thank you, Great Spirit, for the beautiful gift that you've given us in our Mother. And thank you for sharing the love that you have for her, and allowing us the type of relationship that you so graciously have with her. Thank you for allowing us into this beautiful family that's been created. And may we always be open to receiving those gifts in a fractal way, that the deeper we go in and the deeper we look, the more there is for us to enjoy and to feel the love. So please help us to remember that, to remember who we are, to remember what we are, and to remember that we are the gift, that we are the change, and that our hearts are what navigate us in this world as we move into this fifth dimension, a new paradigm. Again, I ask that you give us eyes to see, not just from our mind, but from our heart, so that we can hold the space for all those coming behind us, and hold it in a good way that will be nurturing and reflect the Mother Nature that we are. Mitaki Awasan. Thank you.
And I'm feeling called to follow that up with a Hopi prayer prophecy. You've been telling people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go and tell the people that this is the hour. And there are things to be considered. Where are you living? How are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relationship? Where's your water? Know your garden. It's time to speak your truth. It's time to speak our truth. Create the community. Be good to each other. Do not look outside of yourself for your leader. This could be a good time. The river is flowing very fast now, and it is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they're being torn asunder and will suffer greatly. Know that the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, and keep our eyes open, our heads above water, and our hearts pumping. And I say, see who is in there with you and celebrate. At this time, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment we do, our spiritual growth and journey comes to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. We must gather ourselves, banish the word struggle from our attitude and our vocabulary. All that we do, we must now do in sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Thank you all. See you next Wednesday,
Thank you, Elizabeth.
and bring some friends. And World
And-
Water Day.
And I just want to say, I know we have a couple more spots for World Water Day, and I'm going to talk to Bloom about getting him to confirm. You know, part of my issue with Bloom is if we do him at Genesis, a lot of people will come just for the dance party and won't come for necessarily the whole event. So I am working on having him do something on either Monday or Tuesday in Crestone. So I did talk to the Cloud in several venues, and a lot of people kind of changed